It shouldn't come as any surprise that horror video games are such a popular commodity. I mean, when you think about it, they're a type of game that has a wide variety in the company that you can enjoy it with. There's the solo experience where it's just you against the game and all the anxiety and dread that comes against facing the dark alone, but there's also the communal experience of horror games of watching other people play them and witnessing their reactions. The rise of the Let's Play in recent years was a huge thanks to horror video games like Amnesia: The Dark Descent, Slender, and Five Nights at Freddy's. For some reason, people find it fun to be afraid. It's also fun to see other people be afraid. Maybe it's a biological reason, like our body's increased heart rates and adrenaline are just making us think we're having an exciting time. Or maybe it's just because there's an enjoyment in the unscripted scene of terror. Regardless, horror video games are very popular. But not really with me. I've never been a huge fan of horror games, at least not the games that are intentionally trying to scare you with cheap jump scares. I'm a pretty big fan of survival horror games like Resident Evil or Dead Space, but while those games can be scary and a bit unnerving at times, I always felt there was more emphasis on the survival part. It was all about resource management. Do you use up some of your bullets to kill a few zombies, or do you run past them because you'll need those later? Do you use your health power up now because you need more space in your inventory, or do you save it so you can take more damage and get more mileage out of it?
But you know what? A Halloween-themed episode requires an appropriately themed game, so we're going to have to find a game that sends shivers down my spine.
Resident Evil 5? No, that wasn't very scary. The only thing frightening about that was Chris's workout plan. What about Bloodborne? Nah, too many eyeballs. No, never again. And besides, it's kind of in the wrong genre. Wait, is this? Yes, of course, it would be perfect.
Ah, yes. Fear. A game that is probably not actually scary anymore, but whatever. This is Fear. I'm doing something in here!
First Encounter Assault Recon, or Fear for short, is a 2005 survival horror game developed by Monolith Productions and published by Sierra Entertainment. So yeah, same guys that made
Graham, watch out! A poisonous snake!
would go on to publish this. The game follows the adventures of a paranormal activity response team known as the First Encounter Assault Recon, aka Fear. You know, you gotta wonder how many word combinations they must have used trying to get that acronym. Let's see here. What if we called them the Paranormal Encounter Navigation Inspectors? Whoa, okay, that's not gonna work. Let's try this again. The plot is kicked off when a research and development company called Armacam loses control of one of their subjects, a psychic military commander named Paxton Fettel, who's got a hungering for some human flesh. Fettel takes control of Armacam's clone super soldiers as his own personal army and leads them against Armacam, at which point the government responds by calling in the cavalry. You play as Fear's new point man, aka the guy who does everything, because apparently nobody else is worth a damn. He's a protagonist who is as faceless as he is silent, and can do nothing but listen to his woefully incompetent team members while he saves the day all on his own.
This is why nobody takes us seriously. Military clones.
A full battalion of them, highly trained and heavily armed.
Or you know, maybe it's because you guys are called Fear, and you wear your name on your uniform as like a badge of honor. Look man, we can't all have good acronyms like CIA, or FBI, or AFI, MSI, MCR.
Oh wow, I had an emo phase in middle school, didn't I?
I think something interesting about this game is that it's never really brought up why Fear was founded in the first place. You get a short blurb at the beginning of the game saying that the government created it, but not any sort of incident that warranted its conception. So what even happened? Did the president at the time just watch too much X-Files and he wondered why they didn't have a supernatural team for that? Damn it, Cheney, don't give me a lip on this. If we don't act now, the Smoking Man will win. Fear is a first-person shooter made in the era of shooters like Half-Life, a game where there's no regenerating health bar, you can hold more than 2 guns, and aiming your weapon doesn't involve looking down your sights, but instead you just kinda squint a little and zoom in. The point man can carry a variety of equipment including 3 guns, several types of explosives, and up to 10 medical kits that he can use to heal himself. As said before, there's no regenerating health in this game aside from when you get really low, and that only goes up to a measly 25% of your health. With the ability to heal yourself at any time, you'd think that this would make the game kind of easy, but you'd be wrong. Despite the fact that you have healing items, armor items, and a load of other nice toys to help you survive, it's very easy to die in this game. Explosions do a huge chunk to your health, enemy bullets will rip through you like butter. This really isn't a run and gun type of game. You gotta take your time and stick to cover if you don't want to die. Of course, you can make it a run and gun game for short periods of time, because you possess super slow-mo matrix powers. The point man has the ability to slow down time with the simple press of a button. When he does this, everyone else moves at a snail's pace while he continues moving at his own speed. Or they move normal while he moves super fast, one of those things. The slow-mo power turns everything into a scene straight from the Matrix. You can dodge incoming missiles, fire precision shots into the enemy's skull, all while a blur effect is applied to the screen and tracers from your bullets are seen in every single freaking direction. It's really cool. And not only that, but it's super useful how easy it is to get killed in this game. The slow-mo power saved my life constantly, and towards the end of the game, I found myself using it more and more. It's one of those abilities that never really gets old no matter how much you use it.
Of course, with everything I've said about this game, Fear sounds more like a John Woo movie than a horror game. So what is it about this game that really rustles my jimmies?
The main game of Fear is split up into two distinct phases of gameplay, which I will call the combat phase and the isolation phase. The combat phase is pretty easy to nail down. Anytime you're fighting against the replica army, aka firing your gun, your focus is on combat. There obviously isn't really any focus on horror in this phase. It's all about fighting soldiers, throwing grenades, and killing bad guys in true FPS style. However, while you may be some kind of badass in the combat phase, the isolation phase is a completely different story. This phase occurs whenever you're not in combat and you're traveling from one fight to another. During these parts, you are alone. It's dark, aside from your little flashlight, and it's cramped, since a majority of Fear's environments consist of hallways and small rooms. There's a weird and creepy familiarity to the environments that Fear create. The places you're venturing through for most of the game aren't military strongholds or haunted mansions, they're just regular office buildings. You know that unnerved feeling you get when you're all alone in the house because everyone else has left and it's late at night, so even the slightest odd sound downstairs will set you off? That's what it's like playing Fear. Fear's greatest strength is its atmosphere. Monolith claims that they took heavy inspiration from Japanese horror sources, opting less for scary monsters leaping out of the dark to murder you, and more of ghosts making noises and knocking stuff around to make you feel uneasy. Not to mention that there's a fairly heavy emphasis on sound and light in this game. The only reliable source of light that you have on you is a flashlight that can quickly run out of batteries until they recharge. And every so often you'll hear sounds of things moving around, but not being quite sure of where they're coming from. Sometimes things will get knocked over on their own and draw your attention to it. It got to the point where the game sorta trained me to look for these moments, even when I was the one that accidentally knocked something over by myself. It was terrifying, manipulative, and awesome. Of course, a good deal of Fear's creepiness also probably comes from the fact that the other main antagonist is a little girl. While Federal soldiers make up the physical antagonism in this game, there's another more mental opponent that the player faces during the isolation phase, Alma, a small psychic girl that will be the source of your nightmares for the next few hours. Alma's a truly terrifying force in nature, not only because of how creepy she comes across, but how completely out of your league she is. The first time you experience Alma, you see her tearing through all of your backup, leaving you on your own when you have to face her next time. You know, at this point you probably think you're some kind of badass, you've been soldiering on through, what could possibly stop you? Gee, I don't know, how about a freaking 8-year-old setting an entire warehouse on fire? The only thing you can do in this encounter is to run away. If you try to fight Alma, she will kill you very quickly. From that point on, you always get this kind of twinge of fear whenever you see Alma, because you're not sure if you're supposed to run away or if she's going to hurt you or if she's just there to give you the creeps. She'll just show up randomly in the corner of your eye, standing somewhere. Sometimes the game will treat you like a jump scare accompanied by a scare chord to make you jump, but other times she'll just be hanging out. You know, part of the reason the jump scares in the movies and other games get us so easily is because it either comes out of nowhere so we're not expecting us, or the scene's just setting us up for it and we are. Our attention's drawn to something, an audio cue is played, we're anticipating the jump scare to get us at any second because it's clear that the game is going that way. It's predictable, but we also don't know exactly when it's coming, so we tense up and get ready to change our pants. For the most part, Fear doesn't really do that. There's a few jump scares for sure, but they're more of the surprise variety, like you come around the corner and there's something there. Fear's method of scaring us is mostly in the form of paranoia. Do you want to know what I found personally to be the absolute scariest moment in this game? It wasn't when the room turned into a river of blood or when Alma turned Delta Force into Halloween yard art. It involved this thing, a ladder. These things make me paranoid every time I see them now, and not because I'm superstitious or afraid of heights or superstitiously afraid of heights. There's a part relatively early on when you approach a ladder at the beginning of a level. It's not the first ladder that you've seen, and it definitely won't be the last. But the thing about ladders in these games is that getting on and off them are not really quick affairs. In a somewhat pseudo-realistic manner, the point man will slowly turn around, put his feet down, and then start to climb carefully down the ladder. However, when you do it this time, you'll look back to where you were standing and see... This part scared the pants off me. It counts as a jump scare, yes, and I've already said how those are cheap, but in this particular case, it still felt a bit more thought out. It wasn't just throwing a random monster at you from nowhere or dropping a cat on a piano. The game took advantage of the sense of safety that this part of the isolation phase had been giving me. Ladders were never a big deal. They were a means of getting from one place to another. But now, I was going to be paranoid about every single ladder from here on out. I was going to be of the expectation that maybe, just maybe, something was going to be waiting for me at the top or the bottom. Oh, and by the way, there is something at the bottom of this ladder.
Deserve to die. They all deserve to die.
It's just another example as to why I find Fear's presentation so great. It's taking mundane things that you've seen so many times and changing them. And from that point forward, you no longer see those things the same way. Ladders become a place of helplessness. Offices and hallways had me constantly looking over my shoulder. And eventually you get far enough into the game to realize that the ghosts that are tormenting you aren't actually gonna hurt you. Until they actually start to. There's rarely a moment when you feel safe in this game, and not to mention that you're always on your own whenever these kind of things happen. Anytime an NPC shows up, you can bet they're gonna die or go missing in about 5 minutes. Alright, you guys stay here. I'm just gonna go open the door so we can... Oh. Ah, yeah, my new best friend. We're gonna get in there and kill some soldiers, save the day, and... Oh. Don't worry, Alice. I'm gonna get you out of here. It's okay. This is fine. We're fine. Right. Oh, hey, we are fine. Okay, cool. And oh, hey, she's not dead. She's.
Fear may seem a bit obsolete when compared to other modern shooters such as Halo or Call of Duty, but the horror elements and the atmosphere, those have withstood the test of time.
I don't like horror games very much, but Fear's a title that I still cherish to this day. The atmosphere, the cleverness of how it freaks you out, the fun, matrixy gameplay of the firefights. I love Fear. In terms of a legacy, the game would spawn 2 expansion packs to the original game, both non-canon, a true sequel called Fear 2 Project Origin with a DLC, and a third game that completely abandoned the horror atmosphere and turned the game into a co-op action shooter. After that, there was some stupid online multiplayer game for it or whatever, and that's been the end of Fear.
Did I enjoy Fear? Well, of course. Do I want to see it return? Maybe not. If there's one thing that horror movies and horror video games have in common, it's that sometimes remakes aren't the best idea. We should all take a lesson and learn from the classic horror story and sometimes just let the dead stay dead. I hope you enjoyed this review. And I hope you have a happy Halloween. I'm okay.
Spooky, scary skeletons and shivers down your spine. Shrieking skulls will shock